This is a demonstration of a home video cassette recorder, and with one of these electronic marvels, you can record Consumer Survival Kit even when you're not at home.
1970s items that could make you rich. If you're one of the people who would brave their old family's attic or basement for spring cleaning, you might want to keep an eye out for these items from the 1970s that can still make you some money thanks to collectors. So here we go. Number 25, sports trading cards. There's a huge sports culture here in America and in other parts of the world, meaning sports items like trading cards can give you a pretty penny. And if the item is at all associated with a legendary player in sports history, you best believe the significance and value of that item will skyrocket through the roof. For example, this Topps rookie third baseman baseball card from the 1970s is worth a whopping $200,000. Surely they must have added a couple zeros accidentally, right? Well, no, it is. And the 1970s are the last decade of the vintage baseball card era. What we mean by that one is that no one looked at baseball cards as an investment, so people weren't keeping them in binders and top loaders. Even worse, mums were still throwing out entire collections. Even though the trading cards from the 1970s are not on every collector's wish list, it has a plethora of Hall of Famer rookies from this decade, some of whom rank among the all-time greats. Therefore, some high-grade rookies fetch exceptional values on the open market. Number 24, vintage perfumes. You must have heard someone say that they were taken back to their childhood whenever they came across a familiar smell from those items. Well, perfume collectors kind of want the same, but instead of smells from their childhood, they're trying to collect rare fragrances from different eras. In the modern world, where it is now possible to recreate new scents,
it's like representing hope, freedom after the war, the new look. And when it comes to old Hollywood movie stars,
such as the smell of space, the perfume of sea spray, or even to bottle the odor of certain cities, true enthusiasts are snatching up fragrances that have become iconic or simply unobtainable. Perfumes from the 1970s like the Alyssa Ashley Civet Oil are extremely rare and can go for thousands if auctioned. The vintage perfume looks like a composition that awakens in us a certain nostalgia. Many enthusiasts therefore throw themselves headlong into the quest for their precious untouched fragrance. So, if you've ever been gifted 1970s perfumes from your mother or grandmother that seemed uninteresting to you, well, you may want to check again. Maybe there'll be a rare collector's item that can make you smell a few $1,000s richer. Number 23, Pyrex dishes. Every grandma has a huge collection of Pyrex dishes and she somehow keeps getting more. But if you've ever been gifted any by her, don't throw out grandma's Pyrex. Those casserole dishes could be worth real money. A large part of the appeal? Well, first there's the increasingly rarity of what used to be ubiquitous. Pyrex ceased production of its colorware in the mid-1980s. Then there's a huge variety of styles, over 150 patterns. Finally, there's the nostalgia. Pyrex continues to hold its value because most of us associate it with memories of family and holiday gatherings.
A billion pieces of these cookware were made in all shapes and sizes, and that they can still be bought today.
And memories from our childhood. Often thrift store shoppers look specifically for these in the kitchen sections. If you happen to have one, you can expect to get about $100 depending on the piece. Number 22, typewriters. Many of you may not remember typewriters, but for those who spent time around them, they may remember the iconic constant click-clack as their keys pushed away. Many households still have these obsolete machines catching dust, and while the owners may or may not be aware of it, some of them can turn out to be collectibles as well. Thought you might think typewriters are obsolete these days? Well, many collectors buy and keep them as historical relics. Typewriters were pretty popular in the 1970s, but the electronic ones had a huge boom in this decade. As long as yours is functional, it could be worth a decent amount, possibly up to $1,200. Number 21, VHS tapes. In the 1970s, Friday nights were special times for families. A trek to the video rental store to choose a VHS tape for movie night was a path of ritual for many teenagers. Alternately, perhaps a film was loved so much that it was given a forever home as a retail purchase. In the case of the latter, if the content is iconic and the tapes themselves are in pristine condition, they could be worth a surprising amount of money, like the iconic Spielberg movie Jaws from 1975 that introduced the world to the fear of sharks and scared kids away from any body of water.
A player, a selection of programs. Simple, compact, nothing technical. The excitement of the...
Even their own swimming pools. These days, a VHS copy of Jaws can go for upwards of $30,000. So if you manage to find one in your nearest thrift store, you're going to need a bigger boat for all that cash. VHS isn't around anymore, and while we're happy that all our media viewing tech has drastically improved over the years, another thing to be happy about is how much your old VHS copies might be worth. We suggest looking through your collection. If you've got one, any rare, discontinued, or popular tapes you've got on hand might just be worth something. Number 20. Vintage Apple computers. These days, everybody wants to get rid of their old electronics and get the latest gadget they can get their hands on. But if you have any old Apple computers in your attic, you should think twice about throwing those out. The world of vintage Apple computers offers an intriguing glimpse into the early days of personal computing. Among these, the Apple I computer, released in 1976, stands out as a collector's dream. These computers that may have been rendered obsolete over time haven't yet lost their charm and are valued in thousands of dollars due to their rarity. Collectors avidly seek out the original Apple I units, especially those in working condition or with their original packaging. These rare pieces can command prices over $220,000 at auctions, a testament to their enduring significance in the tech world. Number 19. Ikea Furniture. The last thing you'd expect to fetch you a lot of money these days is Ikea Furniture, right? Well, this Swedish company has been famous for decades.
12 women were airbrushed out of the Saudi Arabian version, raising questions about the group's policies toward...
Due to its primary objective of providing everyone with easily available furniture. Known for affordable modernist designs, but also slightly rickety bookshelves and sofas, IKEA is not usually associated with furniture that stands the test of time. An increasingly popular trend lately sees the situation reversed. Furniture designed for the masses and originally available at popular prices now reaches astronomical costs in vintage furniture markets. On numerous e-commerce sites, you can buy IKEA furniture that has increased in value 100-fold over time, sometimes costing more than 5,000 euros. The most popular vintage IKEA pieces are from the 1970s and 1980s because IKEA in this era began to define itself as a brand aimed at a youthful, urban, and contemporary audience. Therefore, if you have any of these comfy, minimalist tables or chairs laying around, catching dust, you may want to look into them. Number 18. Magazines. If you're a musician, you've fantasized about getting on the cover of Rolling Stone, and if you're a model, you've always dreamed about making the cover of Vogue. But for everyday people like your grandparents living average lives, their hopes and dreams might have been to somehow end up featured in Life magazine. These magazines may be gone, but they're not forgotten.
They're about 80-ish years old now, so these ones from the 60s and 70s are still like, 50.
Especially by collectors. Now, you must be wondering, how valuable can something be if it's been published 1,000 times? Well, nowadays you can find old copies in virtually every thrift store. Typically they sell for about $10 to $20 a piece, but a few rare copies consistently sell for much more, like the Cosmopolitan April issue of 1972, which sold for $3,000 in 2019. If you have any of them in your attic, they probably won't make you rich, but they could definitely add some change to your piggy bank. And if you have a lot of them in good condition, you could net a tidy sum. It's definitely worth the time to look through those old issues. While some may hold no value, keep an eye out for covers with celebrities, key moments in history, and special editions. Number 17. Board games. In the 1970s, when smartphones and computers were a distant future, board games were the thing that brought families together. A regular family board game night would be full of rage, quitting, a screaming match or two, and a whole lot of laughs. There's an underground community of board game fanatics who keep this treasured pastime alive. But you don't need to be a pro like them to convince you that finding one of these valuable vintage board games on your thrift store runs is a must. Board games, like other vintage items, have found themselves as a collector's item worth thousands of dollars in auctions. Based on shows or movies, these games appreciated in value due to their rarity, like the board game Lost in Space. Ironically, Lost in Space is one of those 1970s shows that, well, got lost in space. Unlike Star Trek, it faded into obscurity for most subsequent generations until Netflix's adaptation made it re-enter the chat, but the rare nature of the show made it a center of attention in the board game collecting scene. While buying board games new can already be quite the expensive purchase, owning a vintage one can definitely offset those costs if you're looking to sell. As with everything on this list, the rarer the better. If it was a limited edition game that was made during the early 20th century, for instance, those can easily go up to thousands of dollars. Number 16, vintage vinyls. With smartphones and CDs, Bluetooth and USB sticks, music comes wrapped in all shapes and sizes. And then in a category all their own are the sleek black vinyl discs edged with notes of sepia and nostalgia. But are they worth anything today? Sure. It depends on what you have and what condition they're in. It's like asking if cars from the 1960s and 70s and 80s are worth anything. Record prices are all over the place, just like car prices. The main thing is that they have to be in good condition. Then they have to be the albums that people want. Any record in mint or near mint condition has value, but some titles are highly sought after more than others. Number 15, designer handbags. Above any other fashion accessory, the handbag is a sign of the times. It's a window into the fashion of the decades that it's been through. It manages to encapsulate the spirit of an era like no other fashion creation. In line with the hippie-influenced clothing of the 1970s, bag designs were suitably bohemian. Many were crafted from supple leather or suede and designed to be swung across the body via a long, slender strap. Just be careful with handling the strap, though, or you'll need a chiropractor. However, beyond their aesthetic appeal, savvy investors and fashion enthusiasts are discovering a surprising secret. Designer handbags can also be a lucrative financial investment.
So much. She was seen wearing this bag and carrying this bag in so many different colors and different sizes. She just loved it.
Unlike trendy pieces that quickly fade out of fashion, a well-crafted designer bag is designed to stand the test of time. Chanel bags from the 1970s and 1980s sell for upwards of $8,000 these days, way more than they were worth at the time of their release. As if Coco Chanel herself designed these bags, probably while sipping on some very expensive French wine and thinking, how can I make people even more obsessed with me? Although they come with an expensive price tag to begin with, high-end bags only continue to appreciate in value as time passes, especially if they come from big-name luxury brands like Chanel, Hermes, or Louis Vuitton. If they were limited edition, rare pieces of a collection, that only adds to its sell price. Number 14, vintage video games. In the 1970s, video games were still in their infancy, but that doesn't mean that they were not widely popular. Games like Pac-Man became a worldwide sensation, and systems like Atari were finding their way under every Christmas tree, surprising kids and teenagers alike. The Atari video computer system, known as the Atari 2600 after 1977, was a trailblazer in home gaming entertainment. Games like Space Invaders and Pac-Man became household names, cementing Atari's place in gaming history. Collectors today prize well-maintained Atari consoles and rare game cartridges, with some fetching several $1,000s. Other notable games from this era, such as Super Mario Bros. and The Legend of Zelda, have become collectible treasures as well. Number 13, toy train sets. Model trains hold a special place for children and collectors alike. Watching these mechanized toys go round and round in circles would never get old for us as kids. The well-known Lionel Train Company has been producing model trains and railroads since the 1900s. They've established a huge following among collectors and became more popular through their line of Christmas products. The Mickey Mouse Railroad Express set from 1977 is a desired item. Number 12. Lord of the Rings Knickerbocker playset. The famous Tolkien novels Lord of the Rings are mostly associated with Peter Jackson's iconic trilogy. For collectors, though, another movie based on the book is more meaningful. In 1978, Ralph Bakshi directed an animated version with the voices of John Hurt, William Squire, and Anthony Daniels, among others. There was a toy promotion to go along with the movie, of course, and though the action figures look a little cheap by today's standards, they're anything but. Knickerbocker purchased the rights to develop an action figure line to be released with the film. Unfortunately, the film was not well received, and thus the line of action figures soon was relegated to the discount aisles of toy stores. But after the release of the timeless trilogy by Peter Jackson,
up first is Frodo Baggins. He has 5 points of articulation. Head goes left and right, arms go up and down, legs go backwards and forwards. And on the
Lord of the Rings was on everybody's screen, and it reached new heights in terms of fame. With the popularity of the latest films soaring, the Knickerbocker line of figures has since then quadrupled in value. According to eBay, a complete set can sell for up to $17,000. Number 11. The 1970s Lincoln Memorial Coin. In these days of inflation, we all treat pennies as insignificant objects discarded by society as nothing more than a nuisance, thrown on the ground or left in those little cups next to cash registers. But some of those nothings turn into really big somethings, like the 1970s Lincoln Memorial penny. If you're looking through your wallet as we speak, the penny in there is most likely worth exactly 1 cent. But this specific penny from the 1970s is valuable enough to bring in a great fortune. In a way, it's kind of like crypto, like its champion Bitcoin, which itself was worth nothing more than a few pennies apiece just a few years ago. There were 2 different types of pennies made in 1970, and one that was far rarer and worth more than the other. One is the small date variety, and one is the large date variety. The scarce 1970 S small date variety is characterized by a more delicate date of a finer punch as compared to the large date variety. These cents are extremely rare, with about 50 pieces in existence, and can easily go at auctions for about $38,000.
Focusing on 4 key coins from 1992D, 1983D, 1982, and 1984D.
Number 10. Rare 1970s stamps. Rare stamps from the 1970s can help you make money if you know what to look for and are willing to put in some effort. The best stamps to focus on are those that were printed in small numbers, had mistakes, or celebrated important events. For example, the 1979 inverted Jenny stamp from the United States is famous for being printed upside down by mistake. Only 100 sheets were made, making it very rare. One of these sold for nearly $1 million in 2007. Another valuable stamp is the 1974 inverted swan from Australia, which also had a printing error. Only 1 sheet was printed, and one sold for $80,000 in 2010. To find valuable stamps from the 1970s, start by learning about the stamps issued during that time. Look for stamps that are rare or have printing errors. Joining stamp collecting groups and going to stamp shows can help you collect with other collectors and find good deals. Be patient and ready to keep your stamps for a while, as their value can change over time. With some research and a bit of luck, you could build a valuable stamp collection that might make you rich. Number 9. Vintage furniture of the 1970s. Vintage furniture from the 1970s can be a great investment if you know what to look for. The 1970s was a decade of bold, funky, and innovative design, with many pieces becoming highly sought after by collectors today.
They really had that look that you would see in a hunting lodge or cabin, and they certainly made a statement.
Some of the most valuable 1970s furniture includes pieces by renowned designers like Milo Bogman, Vladimir Kagan, and Percival Laffer. For example, a rare Milo Bogman for Thayer Cogan chrome and glass coffee table can sell for over $10,000 at auction. Vintage Italian furniture, such as the travertine coffee tables and brass drinks trolleys, are also highly collectible and can fetch high prices. To find valuable 1970s furniture, look for pieces with unique designs, high-quality materials, and in good condition. Brands like Desade, Artedi, and G-Plan are known for their well-made and stylish furniture from this era. Attend estate sales, flea markets, and antique shows to find hidden gems, and be prepared to negotiate for best prices. While not every piece of 1970s furniture will make you rich, investing in the right items can pay off in the long run. As with any collectible, patience and research are key. With a keen eye for design and a bit of luck, you could build a valuable collection of vintage 1970s furniture that appreciates in value over time. Number 8. Collectible books from the 1970s. Whereas vintage furniture from the 1970s can be a great investment if you know what to look for, books from the 1970s can also be just as valuable. While not every book from the 1970s will make you rich, investing in the right copy may pay off in the long run. Again, as is the rule with any collectible, patience and research are key. Keep an eye out for limited editions. With a keen eye and a bit of luck, you could build a valuable collection of books from the 1970s that appreciates in value over time. Number 7. Comic books of the 1970s. Comic books from the 1970s can be a great way to make money, especially if you find rare first editions or issues featuring important characters. This decade was the start of the Bronze Age of comics, where stories became more interesting and characters more diverse. Notable titles including Giant Size X-Men #1,
one DC Comics Presents, which I'll show over here, that sells for
1975, which introduced popular characters like Wolverine and Storm. A high-quality copy of this comic can sell for over $20,000 today. Another valuable comic is The Tomb of Dracula, number 10, 1973, which features the first appearance of Blade and can be worth around $38,400 for pristine copies. Collectors love comics that show the first appearances of famous characters or have unique cover art. As the comic book market has grown, many 1970s comics have increased in value. For example, issues of The Amazing Spider-Man and Detective Comics have become very valuable because of their impact on popular culture and the popularity of superhero movies. To profit from comic book collecting, focus on finding key issues in great condition, preferably graded by professionals. Attend comic book conventions, auctions, and sales to discover valuable additions to your collection. With some knowledge and a bit of luck, investing in the 1970s comic books can lead to significant financial rewards over time. Number 6. Classic carpets. Shag carpets from the 1970s can be a profitable investment for collectors and enthusiasts. Known for their deep, soft pile and vibrant colors, these carpets became a defining feature of the 1970s home decor. Their unique style and comfort made them incredibly popular during the decade, often featuring bold patterns and eye-catching hues that reflected the fun and creativity of the era. Today, vintage shag carpets are highly sought after, with some fetching impressive prices. For example, a round shag carpet from the 1970s is currently listed for $1,250, highlighting the demand for these nostalgic pieces. On platforms like Etsy and eBay, you can find various 1970s shag rugs priced significantly, with some selling for over $1,500, depending on their condition and rarity, of course.
Pretty, and then there was another big chandelier type thing. Again, it's so big it would have to be.
To profit from 1970s shag carpets, collectors should focus on acquiring unique and well-preserved pieces, especially those with distinctive colors or patterns. Attending estate sales, flea markets, and online auctions can yield hidden treasures. Additionally, cleaning and restoring vintage carpets can enhance their value, making them more appealing to potential buyers. With a growing interest in retro home decor, investing in classic 1970s carpets can lead to profitable returns. As more people seek to add a touch of nostalgia to their homes, the value of these shag carpets is likely to continue rising, making them a smart investment choice. Number 5. Antique watches. Antique watches can make you money if you collect them, especially ones from famous brands like Rolex, Omega, and Patek Philippe. These watches are valuable because they have great craftsmanship and are rare. For example, a vintage Rolex Submariner from the 1970s can sell for tens of thousands of dollars if it's in good shape and has all its original parts. People love antique watches because they are beautiful and have a lot of history. Limited edition watches, or ones that were made in small numbers, are the most valuable. Some Omega and Heuer models from the 1960s and 70s have become very expensive because they are iconic and people really want vintage watches right now.
Start to break the dial into 4 components: printed components, painted components, applied components, and...
To make money with antique watches, look for ones in perfect condition with the original box and paperwork. Go to watch fairs, auctions, and talk to watch dealers to find the very best ones. Servicing and maintaining the watches can also increase their value. As more people get interested in luxury and vintage watches, antique watches can be a great investment. If you know what to look for and take good care of your watches, you can build a collection that goes up in value over time. Number 4, vintage models. Vintage models from the 1970s are an exciting area for collectors, whether they focus on model cars, fashion models, or other collectibles. For instance, vintage model cars like the 1970s Chevy can be found on sites like Etsy, demonstrating that people still have a strong interest in these nostalgic items. Collecting model cars allows enthusiasts to appreciate the craftsmanship and design of vehicles from that era. In the fashion world, the 1970s saw the rise of iconic models such as Beverly Johnson and Cheryl Tiegs. Johnson made history as the first African-American woman to appear on the cover of Vogue in 1974, breaking barriers in the fashion industry. Tiegs became famous for her swimsuit advertisements, representing the classic California girl and influencing beauty standards of the time. These models not only defied trends, but also became household names.
The jacket is draped at the back to give the scarab line. The effect lies in the design, so don't start tearing your own jackets down the back.
Often gracing the covers of major fashion magazines. Collecting vintage models from the 1970s can be quite profitable. Rare model cars, especially those in excellent condition, can appreciate significantly in value over time. Similarly, memorabilia related to famous models, such as signed photographs or magazine covers, can also be worth a lot. By focusing on unique pieces and maintaining their condition, collectors can build a valuable collection. As interest in vintage items continues to grow, investing in 1970s models can lead to good returns, making it an exciting and rewarding hobby for those who appreciate the charm of the past. Number 3. Vintage jewelry. Vintage jewelry from the 1970s can be a great investment for collectors and enthusiasts. This decade is known for its bold and unique designs that reflect the creativity of the time. Popular styles include long necklaces, large medallion pendants, bangle bracelets, and oversized earrings, often featuring vibrant colors and intricate patterns. Gold was a favorite metal of the time, while darker gemstones in rich shades like burgundy, deep blue, and purple were commonly used. Jewelry from the 1970s can fetch high prices, especially pieces from famous designers like Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, and Tiffany & Co. For example, a pair of 18-karat gold and diamond earrings by Cartier.
This one is sort of coarsely made. That's kind of what I like about it in a weird way, if you know what I mean. Pretty cool. I like.
While a textured gold bracelet can go up to $81,000. More affordable vintage necklaces and bracelets can often be found for $22 to $99 on sites like Etsy and eBay. To profit from vintage jewelry, collectors should look for unique, high-quality pieces in great condition or with historical significance. Attending estate sales, auctions, and online marketplaces can help you find valuable items. As interest in retro fashions grow, investing in 1970s vintage jewelry can lead to good financial returns, making it a smart choice for collectors. Number 2, rare sneakers of the 1970s. Investing in rare sneakers from the 1970s can potentially lead to substantial financial rewards, but it requires careful research, patience, and a keen eye for valuable collectibles. Some of the most sought-after vintage sneakers from the 1970s include the Nike Cortez, released in 1972, which has become an iconic silhouette, with rare colorways and well-preserved pairs fetching high prices. The Adidas Superstar, debuting in 1969, became a staple in the 1970s, especially in the hip-hop scene. And vintage pairs in good condition are highly collectible. The Puma Suede, first released in 1968, was popular in the 1970s for its simple, stylish design, and rare colorways and collaborations can be valuable.
Which I think is really, really cool. Now, actually, Nike Air was first placed on a running shoe, the Air Tailwind, in late 1978.
To profit from rare 1970s sneakers, focus on acquiring limited editions, collaborations, and models associated with influential figures or cultural moments, which can be found on platforms like StockX or GOAT and eBay. However, it's important to note that the sneaker resale market can be volatile, and prices are driven by trends and hype, so investing in rare sneakers should be approached with caution and a long-term perspective, requiring patience, research, and a keen eye for quality and condition to build a collection of valuable vintage sneakers. Ultimately, the right pair of rare sneakers can not only enhance your wardrobe, but also serve as a smart financial investment. Number 1. Vintage scientific gadgets. Vintage scientific gadgets from the 1970s can be a great investment if you focus on rare and unique pieces in good condition. Items like the Galileo thermometer, which shows how temperature affects liquids, and the Newton's cradle, which illustrates energy conservation, are not only educational but also visually appealing. Other popular gadgets include the Crookes radiometer, which converts light into motion, and the ferrofluid display bottle, which creates mesmerizing patterns when exposed to a magnetic field. To maximize your profits, look for vintage scientific calculators, oscilloscopes, or early computers.
Is determined by the amplitude of the modulating signal. If we raise or lower the frequency of the modulating signal,
as these can be quite valuable due to their historical significance. Platforms like eBay and Etsy are excellent places to find and sell these collectibles, especially as interest in retro and educational items continues to grow. Some gadgets, like the Lady Braun Luftkissen, are particularly sought after for their innovative design and engineering. Additionally, items with original packaging or documentation can significantly increase in value. Investing in vintage scientific gadgets not only allows you to build an interesting collection, but can also lead to substantial profits. For collectors looking to make money from their passion, these gadgets represent a smart and rewarding choice, blending nostalgia with financial potential. With the right knowledge and a keen eye for unique pieces, you can turn your love for vintage science into a lucrative investment opportunity. So, these were the 25 things from the 1970s that could make your wallet a bit heavier. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.